welcome back to my channel. So today we will be doing a nice lesson on the flat. We have been jumping a little bit here and there, but I really need to get stronger for my 2-point. So I'm really working those muscles in. Definitely a different saddle is a different feel, so it's really important for me to also be helpful to my horse and get the proper muscling for myself. I must say that by using a jumping saddle, you use your core muscle way more than you would in a dressage saddle because you're sitting really up straight. So you're working more like your back muscle, a little bit of your core muscle, but not as much. So that's definitely an adjustment. So after putting in and making sure that the girth is tight, we are going to just do those 2 little trotting poles over there and help us with our rhythm, straightness, and making sure that Hazel's paying attention to Mia, basically. So as you can see here, I'm just backing her up because she is a little bit forward that day, so she has a lot of energy to give. We haven't been doing a lot of flat lately, just like I said, because we're doing a lot of jumping and just trying to get that a little bit more ready and get Hazel muscled up for jumping. But yeah, she is a little bit of a little dragon that day. So she was pulling me a little forward. She wanted to go fast, so I had to make sure to pace her out a little bit here. It's definitely a different feeling for her too, and when I put the jumping saddle, it's basically expected of her that she is actually forward, just because jumping is a forward sport, so you have to make sure your horse is actually always forward. But in this case, we're just doing some flatting, so I would do the same thing I would do in a dressage saddle, but I'm just using the jumping one so I can actually work my 2-point and my position and my core muscle. So just doing a little lead change here. Hazel tends to be a little bit better on that side. She was definitely not pulling as much as at the beginning. It might be either because we changed sides or just because she understood that she couldn't pull as much anymore. So the goal of this exercise is really to make sure that she is actually placing her leg properly when we're going over those poles. So here I backed her up, even though I didn't really have to. She was actually right where I wanted her to be, but it's just for, you know, make sure that she pays attention. So as you can see here, she definitely like had a little hesitation or a little pause before she took the poles, and that's exactly what I'm asking her to do. So here I just put it in slow motion for you guys, just so you guys can actually see what we're trying to accomplish here. So we're just making sure we're centered right at the ground poles, and then I'm controlling her rhythm, and as you can see here, it's really effortless. Like, she doesn't have to lift her legs more than that. She goes over it smoothly. So that's basically the whole goal of the exercise here, and as you can see, we mastered it pretty quickly, which I'm really happy about. So all of these nice warm-up exercise kind of made me a little warm, so I'm just going to remove a layer here. Spring is definitely a weird season where you don't really know which jacket to put on. So that was my winter jacket because it wasn't that warm, but when you're riding you kind of get really hot. And then I have a hoodie, and I also have a long sleeve shirt right underneath that, just to make sure I don't get cold. I am definitely more the type of person that's always cold, so I have to make sure I have everything ready just in case. So once again, did pretty great there. We're a little bit forward, so her back legs ended up being really close to the pole, so it makes that little noise. When you're in the arena, you kind of hear the hooves touching the pole. But other than that, she did really good. So my coach put the poles aside. We are actually going to work on 2 different things. So we can work on the canter, and we'll also work on self-carriage, which is a new concept here for us. So this exercise is on shape and direction. So it's just making sure that we have a nicely shaped circle, and that we are able to work on the direction as well. So we're working the bend here, going across, around, and just doing all these little lead changes. And that's just to kind of work on the control that I have on the horse before we actually decide to canter away. So that's always a good exercise, especially on those days where the horse is a little excited, a little forward, not paying attention as much. It's always good to just kind of change the rhythm, change the beat, the direction. That really kind of forces them to kind of pay attention to what you're asking them to do. So once everything is established, the rhythm, the head placement, and that you have control of your horse, it's time to canter. And as you can see here, we always have like the smoothest transition with this horse. I cannot emphasize this enough because a lot of horses actually have to work really hard to get a seamless transition or get a smooth transition. But with Hazel, it's super easy, thankfully. So I'm really happy with that. She just picks it up exactly the way I ask her to do, and then she just goes on the proper lead as well. So like that, you don't have a lot of changes to do. You just really have to go with her in the canter, and it's very smooth. Upward transitions have always been the best, one of her best skills, and the easiest to get on her. One of the little things that we want to work on is probably the downward transition from canter to trot. As you can see, this one was pretty good, but I feel like sometimes her legs are kind of moving a lot more than they should. So that's something we'll be working on a little bit more as soon as we get a nice collected canter, which is almost there. I'm so excited. So one of the nicest things that you were able to see with that canter, I hope, is that she is actually doing so much better on the straight lines. So going all the way across the arena is not a struggle anymore, which is kind of pretty amazing. Just considering how off we were at the beginning, I was just thinking maybe we would have to work on that skill a little bit more. But she is getting like really good at doing straight lines and staying straight. And as you can see here, once again, she just picked up the canter very smoothly once again, and she's staying fairly light in my hand and in my seat. So as you can see here, the straight lines are improved like a lot, and I'm actually able to go around for a longer period of time, which is something that's really exciting as well, just because I don't have to always kind of start the canter and then start again, that we used to do a lot at the beginning. That just means that she's actually fit enough to kind of hold it for that long, which is pretty impressive. Actually, within 2 months, we're actually able to build that strength necessary to just canter away that like that. Is actually quite nice to see. So basically what we're going to be working on here is the self-carriage. So that just means that the horse is basically able to carry themselves, more specifically their heads. It might seem a little strange for somebody that doesn't ride, but it's really important that the horse is able to kind of carry themselves properly, because you don't really want to have to always overly control the horse with your legs and with your hands. So if the horse carried their head properly, you already have your hands free, which is, you know, really useful, because you can just use your hands to steer, and you can use your legs to, you know, go forward for the speed. So that's already much simpler. So what I've been doing a lot during this training is basically moving my hands a lot, just moving the bit in my horse's mouth a lot, making sure that she knows that I'm right there and I'm controlling everything. And it's really nice, but it's also very exhausting on the long run. So the more the horse can carry themselves, the better it is. So the purpose of this exercise here is definitely just to let the horse kind of figure out where their head's supposed to be at, so not too high, not too low. And me as a rider, the way I will guide her is basically by asking her with my hands. So I'm just doing a little balance with my hands, so moving them back and forth, and that really helps the horse to kind of just lean a little bit forward into the bit and lower their heads. So that's definitely something that I'm working on with the self-carriage, and she did that really good. One of the things that you would want to avoid is to make sure that your horse doesn't pick up speed, because you don't control their head as much. They have more freedom with their neck, but they also have to learn how they can control that themselves. So that's definitely something that you really want to pay attention to. But other than that, it's definitely to give them the opportunity to kind of figure out where their head placement is supposed to be. So that's what the self-carriage exercise is all about. So during that self-carriage exercise, you'll notice two things. One, my horse looks a little fussy sometimes. That is just me, my action of my hands to bit. That's actually causing her to kind of just react, just because she's not used to that much kind of indication from me, especially when I'm actually giving her her neck back or her head back. So she's just kind of wondering like what's going on, what they actually want from me. And the only thing that I want from her is just basically for her to lower her head and just have her like her mouth on the bit, like just be on the bit actually. So if she can just lower her head, just keep her head there, that's exactly what I'm asking her to do. So at the beginning it's a little hard and she gets a little forward. As you can see, she's kind of dragging her feet, fussing a bit, tossing her head, but as you can see, from time to time she does lower her head, and as soon as she does that, I kind of relax my aids or my hand control, so she can kind of understand that I'm just asking her to just kind of relax into it, and as soon as you get it, I'll stop fidgeting with your bit. So that will, you know, really make her a little bit happier. And so she seems to kind of really understand. She's stretching quite a lot, which is totally fine, honestly, because that's the purpose of the exercise, getting her to kind of lean in, lean forward, and grab that bit and hold it properly. And we are changing leads and direction quite a lot as well, and that's just to kind of help her not to take speed too much and just kind of really focus her head onto like, where should I put my head, where, you know, what is she asking me to do. So there's a lot of like changes side to side, and I'm asking her a lot of things with my hands as well. But as you can see here, she's kind of really leaning in and stretching that neck, which is kind of really good because it's been a while that Hazel actually hasn't done that. She just kind of keeps it up, which is really nice when you want to work, but she also has to learn how to relax those muscles as well. So that's actually great. So we're just getting a nice relaxed walk from it, which is actually what we're asking her to do. Now we just have to kind of incorporate that into the trot as well. But for a first time doing this kind of exercise and kind of having control of her own head, it's kind of, you know, a different feeling from her, because before that I was holding it for her and basically telling her where she had to place her head. Now it's more a matter of her figuring out that head space and keeping her head there. Thank you guys so much for joining us through this video. Once again, I hope that you guys really liked it. For me, it was a very different experience with the whole head carriage, and I really actually liked it. I just felt a little bit more free in my hands, and it also forces you to kind of really trust your horse. So I really like that exercise. I think that on the long run is going to really help me kind of free my hands and my mind, and then I'll be able to be a little bit more ahead when it comes to jumping or doing some different kind of activities. So once again, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye for now.